So it's very common that we'll model something that's unique or takes us a lot of time to get perfect, and we need a lot of copies of it. Let's say you need 30 traffic cones or you need 10 streetlights. You don't want to have to model a new streetlight or a new traffic cone 30 times or 10 times, right? You only want to have to model it once and save yourself some time. So we're going to be using duplicate, which will let us duplicate an exact copy of our mesh. So I'm going to select this little piece that I'm going to be using and repeating here. And I'm going to do edit, duplicate. What that does is it makes it another copy. See, there's two copies, and that second copy is just right on top of my mesh. And I'm just going to move it over to the side a little bit, like so. And there we go. And I can do the hotkey for that, so edit, duplicate, or the hotkey, which is Control D, and I can just move it over. We're going to take a look at two other types of duplication methods. And so first, I'm going to take my original piece. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it. So Control D. And I'm going to go ahead and translate it 1 Maya unit in the z-axis. So you'll see it comes over exactly 1 Maya unit. And I designed this to be specifically 1 Maya unit large. Okay. And so let me go ahead and actually redo that really quickly. So I'm going to duplicate, translate z, 1 Maya unit. And with that still selected, I'm going to come up here to edit, duplicate with transform, or Shift D. You'll notice now it's going to make a duplicate just like the normal duplicate operation, but it's also going to copy how I transformed the previous one and add to it. So if I do Shift D again, it's going to make a new duplicate, and again, move it over in 1 Maya unit in the z-axis. You'll see each time I'm duplicating, it's moving it once in the z-axis and just incrementing that. I can apply other transforms. So let's say I want to start also translating it in the x-axis 1 Maya unit. Okay. Now when I do Shift D, you'll see it's moving 1 Maya unit in the Z and 1 Maya unit X, 1 Maya unit in the Z, 1 Maya unit in the X. Okay. I can also, of course, do any of the rotations. So I'm going to set this to 45, and I'm going to scale this up 10%, so 1.1. Okay. And now if I do Shift D, you'll see that it's doing that translation. So going 1 Maya unit in the X, 1 unit in the Z. It's rotating it in the y-axis, and it's scaling up by 10% each time I duplicate it. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all of these guys. We're going to come back down to our original mesh. So that was duplicate transform. Let's take a look at another type of duplication. It's a lot similar to duplicate with transform, but it kind of automates the process, especially for very large numbers of duplications. So I'm going to open up duplicate special and open up the menu settings for this. So what duplicate special does is it's very similar to duplicate with transform. Let me go ahead and do edit reset settings. It will give you multiple copies, so I could actually make 20 copies at once. And you can dictate how you want to transform each new copy. Let's start with something smaller. Let's say like 10. And I'm going to go ahead and do that translate the z-axis. So this is x, y, z. I'm going to translate in the z-axis 1 Maya unit. Okay, and now when I click apply, you'll see that I've gone ahead and made 9 or 10 new duplicates, so the original plus 10, and each one has been incremented in the z-axis, or translated in the z-axis 1 Maya unit. Okay, and I can take all of these guys right here, and I can do it instead in the x-axis. So let's say I want to make a sheet of these guys. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the x value, translate them by 1. I'm not going to translate in the z anymore, so I'm going to set that to 0. And I'll go ahead and click apply. So see now I have this full sheet of them. So if you know what you're doing and you set it up right, this can save you a lot of time in duplicating your geometry. One other setting I want to take a look at here, and I won't go into the details for too much, is we've been making copies. So these are disconnected from the original. So if I make any changes to the original, it's not going to modify the others. But we also have something called an instance. And an instance is going to actually create a connection from the original to the duplicates. So I'll select this, I'll change this to instance instead, and I'll click apply. You'll notice when I go ahead and edit this piece, that I'm actually editing all the pieces at the same time. And so if you needed to, for some reason, make changes to the original, or you anticipated having to do this, this could be really, really useful for creating that connection and then editing those without having to delete them and reduplicate them.